Should we have Lloyd share some words?
If you want.
I mentioned we have about 5 or 6 sweat lodges here in the canyon. And they're all above the ground, with the exception of our traditional sweat lodge. For 25 years we've had a traditional sweat lodge here. It's subterranean. And basically a sweat lodge is where you go in to purify yourself. As a matter of fact, we have an Ohlone elder here. He's looking the other way. That is a lodge leader. And every lodge is different. It's all predicated on the sweat lodges. But perhaps do you mind sharing what you do when you lead a lodge? Lloyd?
I'm going to sing a couple of songs before I start.
Okay. Lloyd is going to sing a couple of songs before he starts.
We're going to use that canyon to use that. We call the sweat lodge our mother's womb. Because when we are born, or when our mother is carrying us, we are in a peace. We are in a darkness, but a peaceful darkness. A security. We are secured in her womb. So when we go into the sweat lodge, this is what we say. We are going back into our mother's womb to bless ourselves, to pray for healing. You go into the sweat lodge, it's not, people say, well, that's a sauna. No, it's a prayer. It's a ceremony. And you go in there and you give thanks. You have water, you have the stones, our grandfather's stones. The stones get heated up. Some of them will get real big and get heated up.
And they're red and hot.
And they're put inside into the pit right there. And those stones, these stones are the oldest living creations here on this Mother Earth. Those stones, they don't have no eyes, but they see everything. They don't have a mouth, but they'll tell you things if you listen. They don't have any ears, but they hear everything that you say. And through those stones, our prayers go up out of the sweat lodge. It's a healing. You know, you come in, if you have a sickness, it doesn't have to be a physical sickness, because a lot of us don't have a physical sickness. We all have a mental sickness. I do. Everybody does. We are not perfect. We are not 100% healed. As we walk on this earth, you know, we have to give thanks. How many times when you walk by something, you see a creation, you give thanks? How many times do you offer a prayer for someone who is hurting? Not someone that you know that is hurting, but someone you see and you don't know. But he's hurting. The homeless people. We have one that comes around here. What's it, Nick? Is it Nick that comes around here, the big tall guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he comes around here and he come out of anywhere. I saw him one time at Moss Landing. But he's always praying. He gives thanks for everything. Every day you wake up, you give thanks. You know, I get up and I wake up, I walk outside and I give thanks to the grandfather. You know, to all the creations. You know, bring some sage, offer some tobacco. You know, but yeah, it's very strong ceremony. I've seen people come in there and really heal good. You know, it depends. If you're true, if you believe in it, and you go in there, you don't go in there to play. You don't go in there to, you know, whatever. You go in there for one purpose, and that's to pray for healing and to give thanks for all the creations. Because that sweat lodge is, the fire comes from the tree people, the stone people, the water, the offering that we put on there. Sometimes it's cedar, sometimes it's, whatever we have, bare root, we offer it under the stones, and that fills you in. We tell you, go in, cleanse yourself, breathe that in. And then when they shut that door, it's total darkness in there. That's why I say you're going back into your mother's womb. It's total darkness, but it's safe. And when you're in there, nothing bad can happen to you. You hear stories about things that happen, but those things that happen to those people happen because of their inability to run a sweat or their greed. Because we don't charge for a sweat. We don't charge for nothing. We do everything because that is what we are put on this earth to do. We are put here as caretakers. We don't own anything. I tell them, I'm just a caretaker. You don't own your mother. And then they say, well, you sold your land. No, we don't sell our mother. So how can you say that? Like Tony says, there's only 3 ways you can get something. It's either given to you, it's given to you, you steal it. Oh, there was another one that he says. Anyway, there's 3 reasons. You can't. You stole it. It was given to you, or you killed for it, or something like that. But that's what happened. We never gave up our land. Where we're from Carmel, is actually our traditional land, the village of Ichlat, which is right there along the Carmel River. And, they keep us under thumb. They took our land. Why? Well, any of you been up to Carmel? Looked at that area? The resources that were there prior to all those houses and everything. The resources that were all around here. That's what it was. It was greed. They wanted that. You know why? Because they could make money on it. So that's just what they did. When that Dawes Act came into effect, that's what it was about. To steal our land. And genocide. Because they say you had to be over there and you had a certain amount of land. When they did that, they allotted certain people, families, just so much land. But once those families started expanding, what happened to the land? It started growing smaller and smaller. So it's greed that keeps us, these people from doing right. What I mean by right is to acknowledge the wrong that they have done. And they still don't. Not to the people that are not federally recognized. Even the ones that are recognized don't get full acknowledgement or get a full, apology, I guess you would say. Well, they don't acknowledge the wrong that they did. And they did, and they're still doing it.
So what I'm hearing you say is, you want truth in history? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Can't we get it?
Not just his story?
No, not his story, our story.
Every lens has to be acknowledged.
Right.
Every lens, not just his story.
Yeah. You read about what they teach you in school. What did they teach you in school about indigenous people or native people?
Who have been here for what, 12, 14,
16,000
16,000 years, depending on which archaeologist you're talking to?
And what did they take? Oh, they're savages. Oh, wow. You know, when that guy that was lost, you know, they celebrate his birthday all the time.
Which one?
The one that was lost over on the East Coast.
1492.
1492, that guy. Anyway,
That fool sailed the ocean blue.
Of all the people that are lost today, right now.
when Columbus discovered this Turtle Island, so to speak, he didn't discover it. There was people already here. But what happened was, when he got here, he saw all these people running around, these indigenous people. He seen them, and they was always praying, or it had a tobacco or something. They were praying all the time. And you know, because when he wrote in his diary, or whatever they called it, that log, ship's log diary, he put, and he wrote it in Spanish, "Encontré gente indios." People said, well, he encountered Indians. No, that wasn't what it was. If you look at it right and you interpret it the way it's supposed to have been, encontré gente. He saw people, godly people here. But if they would have acknowledged that, the Pope or whoever it was back there, see, they wouldn't have been able to come in and conquer this land, so to speak. Because that's what they were given. They were given the right to go and conquer heathen lands. So that we were heathens, savages. But now you know a little bit of our history.
You know what's really quite surprising? The number of people that come up here that will say, they'll bring their genealogy, and that will say, Anne Marie, my mother told me I was Mexican. My grandmother told me that I was Mexican. But my grandmother's sister, my great aunt, told me that we were Ohlone right here from this mission of San Juan Bautista, which each and every one of you was at today. And I said, and she brings out this big binder with her genealogy in it. And I said, but slow down. There is good reason, perhaps. And that is in the 1850s and 1860s, to say you were Indian was suicidal. In 1854 alone, this government put out in excess of $1.4 million. $5 a head, 50 cents a scalp. That also paid for the guns and for the gunpowder and for the food for the professional Indian killers. If you're a Native woman, you watch your husband get killed, your 2 sons get killed, you're going to tell your daughter, say you are Mexican, just for sheer survival. I grew up here in this canyon. My mother was an extremely proud woman, and I thought we were the only Indians in Hollister. But in 1972, when the California Lands Claim Settlement was distributed, which amounted to $668 for all this entire state of California, outside of 4 different main reservations. There was 178 Ohlone descendants living in San Benito County at that time. And it's really quite surprising. This has happened to me probably at least a half a dozen times. And they've all been women that have done their research. Mm-hmm. They've all been women. And so it's, I say, well, start connecting with your ancestors. Start with a sweat lodge. Start with a powwow. Start with just connecting. And in the sweat lodge, it can get very, very hot. but you really are purifying your body with all the toxins, it can, trust me. The sweat lodge that we had here, this is the same area that my ancestors had a sweat lodge on, and it was built 25 years ago, and it just basically was starting to tilt, deteriorate, and Canyon said, well, Mom, I will replace it. And she is working on it. Perhaps you might want to share